Hi, this is Ravichandran from the Mountain Path. Today we'll discuss interest rate swap valuation using bond approach. Let's quickly recollect the value of a swap at inception is zero. Interest rate swap can be viewed from the point of view of fixed rate payer as issue of a fixed rate coupon bond and investing in a floating rate coupon bond. Here we are trying to value a swap using bond valuation approach. There is nothing but the value of a fixed rate coupon bond and the floating rate coupon bond. Important note here, for the floating rate coupon bond, the next payment is always done using the previous floating rate, or here the previous 6 months LIBOR rate. While valuing a floating rate bond, we only take the next floating rate payment and the principal for discounting, as the subsequent cash flows of the floating rate bond and will have only the par value, so we can ignore that. Let's take an illustration for calculating the value of a swap. Delta Airlines has entered into a 5-year interest rate swap with a bank 3 years ago. So under the 5-year swap, Delta has agreed to be the payer of a fixed swap rate at 6.5% on a semi-annual basis on the notional amount of 10 million, and has agreed to receive 6 months LIBOR semi-annual payments from the bank. Now the balance period for the swap is 2 years. There are 24 months left on the swap agreement with 4 payments and that is left. The LIBOR of the previous 6 months was given as 5% semi-annual compounding. The following LIBOR interest rates were given for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and the time, so the interest rate is given as this 5.2%, 5.4%, 5.8 and 5.9. Let's quickly recollect. Delta Airlines pays a fixed rate for every 6 months at 6.5% and receives LIBOR every 6 months on a notional of principal of 10 million. So let's calculate the market value of the swap from the perspective of the Delta Airline as well as from the bank's perspective. So the given notional principal is 10 million and the annual fixed rates for the swap is 6.5% to be paid every 6 months, and floating rate for the last and floating rate, the LIBOR rate was 5%. So with the given LIBOR curve rates, let's quickly calculate the value of a fixed rate coupon bond using the cash flows here. So we have 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, and we have the cash flows, which is nothing but 10 million into 6.5% divided by 2, and the last payment is the principal is added. So discount these cash flows and with the given spot rates, the LIBOR rates, and that is nothing but cash flow divided by 1 plus the rate to the power of the period. So add the sum of all the cash flows, it will give you the value of the fixed rate coupon bond. For the floating rate coupon bond, we only take the one next payment, that is the previous LIBOR divided by 2 into the principal and plus the principal as the cash flows. Then we discount the LIBOR coupon payment as well as the principal at the rate. We'll discount this, and so we just discount at the spot rate, that is nothing but the 6 month spot rates. So we calculate, so we'll give you the value, and so the difference between the value of the fixed rate and floating gives the valuation. To value a fixed rate, to pay fixed, receive floating. So that means the value of the floating minus the fixed. Similarly, value to pay floating and receive fixed from the point of view of the bank is nothing but the value of the fixed coupon bond minus the floating coupon bond. So this is how we can calculate it. Let's take one more illustration, an illustration using and continuous compounding LIBOR rates. This book is given in the Hull book and chapter 7.2. Suppose some time ago a financial institution agreed to receive 6 months LIBOR and pays 3% per annum semi-annual compounding and on a notional principal of 100 million. The swap has got a remaining life of 1.25 years. The LIBOR rates with continuous compounding for the remaining period 3 months, 9 months, 15 months is given as 2.8%, 3.2% and 3.4% respectively. Now, so important note here, the 6 months LIBOR rate at the last payment was 2.9% semi-annual compounding. Since the swap has got remaining 1.25 years, that means, and since the payments are done 6-month basis, so we can always say that based on the given rates, the 3 months interest rate is given 3 plus 6, 9 months interest rate is given 9 plus 6, 15 months interest rate is given. So the LIBOR rates are given in this example continuous compounding. And let's calculate the fixed rate coupon bond cash flows, which is nothing but 100 into 3% divided by 2. So semi-annual payment, coupon payment, and the last payment including the principal, and discount the cash flows since they are continuous compounding interest rate. So the cash flows into exponential minus the interest rate into the time. So that will give you the present value of the cash flows, and the sum of the present value of the cash flows gives you the value of the fixed rate coupon bond at continuous compounding LIBOR rates. For the floating rate coupon bond, we only take the LIBOR payment and using the previous LIBOR rate plus the principal, then we discount using the LIBOR continuous rate for the 6 month, that is the 0.25 period, that is nothing but the third month. So calculate the difference between so value to pay fixed, receive floating is nothing but the value of the floating rate bond minus the value of the fixed rate bond. Similarly, value to pay floating, receive fixed is nothing but the value of the fixed minus the value of the floating. Now, so suppose the value of the swap is inception is 0. Now, at what LIBOR rate the swap can be valued as 0? So now the value of the swap is not 0 because the swap valuation is done, and that means sometime later, that means, and sometime, now what point of time and at the point of inception, how can we make and what LIBOR rate we can make the swap 0? We can simply run a solver here, and if you go into run the solver, and so we can simply say the solver, and the value of it will set the value 0 by changing the spot rate, and then we can solve it. Then so we will simply get that means at 1.9% LIBOR rate, and the value of the swap becomes 0. So this is how we can value an interest rate swap. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.